Hello guys, today this is a video for the walkthrough for a computer science paper 2, problem solving and programming. This is for the code 0478 with the component like 21. So it's a May June 2021 series along with questions that we're going to solve is going to be all related to section B. Section A we might do later, but our main focus is on answering questions that are related to section B, alright? So we're gonna have to use black ink for this, and the total paper mark for this is 50. That's pretty less for a paper. Usually it is 75 marks. Sorry, it's not 75, sorry. 75 marks is for the theory paper, so in this case it's 50 for the practical paper. So this is a 1 hour 45 minutes paper, so we're just going to be attempting the section B questions quickly. So let's start with section B. Tick one box in each row to identify if the statement is about validation, verification, of both. Now there are some validation rules and checks that you need to understand. So validation checks are just they're just there to make sure that only the correct data has been entered into the system, right? And they're entering data that should be accepted, or acceptable data should be entered. Basically, reasonable amount of data should be entered. So verification is just used to check whether the data that is entered matches the original source when it's transferred from one medium to another computer medium, alright? So entering the data twice to check if both entries are the same is a form of verification, because you're checking that data entered as twice entered. Verification, just one pointer to remember, a key fact to remember is that verification usually involves double data entry, as well as visual verification, where you check the data that's being entered physically from one medium to another, alright? Now, next part is automatically checking that only numeric data has been entered. This is a form of validation to check if reasonable data is entered. Next part is checking data that's entered into a computer system before it is stored or processed, sorry guys. Now, this is the idea that we have to understand is that both validation and verification are forms of verification process. They're just used to check under certain rules and conditions for the data that's been stored and processed. So they both are involved in checking data that's entered in a computer system that's being processed. And remember, like I said, verification is a form. There are two types: double data entry as well as visual verification. So this next point states clearly that visually checking that no errors have been introduced during data entry is a form of verification. So these are some good pointers to score 3 marks. Next question is name and describe the most appropriate programming data type for each of the examples of data that's given. Each data type must be different. So for 37, this is clearly showing us an integer. It's not a decimal, so the data type should be integer. Okay, so now this is data type description. That's because 37 is a whole number. So you have to describe the most appropriate programming data type for each of the examples, okay? So it's just like 37 because 37 is a whole number. So it is an integer. So this is your reason. Now next one, Cambridge 2021. This cannot be integer because there's some text involved. So the data type is, they're asking for data types. So the data type here is a string. Okay, this is a string because it's a group of characters. It's a group of characters and text. Text are involved. Okay, text is involved. 47.86. Now this is a real data type because this is any real number that is okay, that can be a whole number, of fraction. So because fractions, you can change them to decimal as well, so this is considered as a real number. So it could be a fraction. So it could be a fraction. So you just write there and you score 6 marks. Depending on your answer, you just need to describe a little more if you want to score the 6 marks, and give some reasons and descriptions on why you think that it should be the specific data type. Okay, next one. The pseudocode algorithm shown has been written by a teacher to enter the marks for the students in her class and then apply some simple processing. As you can see, that count is there. There's a repeat loop being used, input statements, and there's a lot of if statements to compare if the score count is greater than 70, or if it's greater than 60, or 50, 40, and as go on. It should print the respective grade counts or store them in the value grade counts. At the end, count is incremented by 1, and this will end the loop as long as count is not equal to 30. So you can understand this by saying that what happens, we have to describe what happens in the algorithm for 3 marks. So what we can say, so in marks input, that it's stored in an array. So you can see that in input you can just show that input score count, right, is where count is stored in an array, or count, or the input stored in the form of array, where input are stored in an array. Boundaries are being checked. You can just mention that boundaries are being checked, and matching grade is assigned for respective marks, which are then stored in specific arrays, So this is for 3 marks that you can write down. Then the algorithm, like I said, there's until count is equal to 30, so you can just mention that the algorithm, it finishes after 30 seconds. After 30 seconds of marks that have been inputted, or just say that have been input. So you can mention more points, like how the matching grade is assigned to each mark, and how they're stored in an array in the form of grade counts, or arrays are used, and they use the same index as the mark output inputs. So based on this, we have to just say that how the arrays are used, how the boundaries are checked, how each value is stored to respective grades, how grades are stored in respective arrays, and how the pseudocode ends it with a until loop, right? So until count is equal to 30, the algorithm, it finishes after 30 seconds of marks that have been input. Now write a pseudocode to output the contents of array score open close brackets and grade open and close brackets, along with suitable message. This is a choice of your own, but it's for 3 marks. So in order to score those 3 marks, we have to display the contents of the arrays of the score count, right? So we have to use, the first point is that we have to use the correct loop, including the counter. If not, a for loop can be used. Then we have to show a correct output of the score, as well as a correct output of the grade as the question asks us to do. So, and then we use suitable messages to put as output for both arrays, and this could be mentioning how we're going to show the grade as well as the score. So what you can do is that, like starting, you can just mention, this is all should be written in pseudocode, like I said. So count can be stored in the value of 0, and then you can continue using the repeat loop, right? Repeat loop there. So what we can do is we can write repeat, and based on checking the other ones, we can say we can print student, we can print its count, and we can print the marks as well as the score count. They asked us to show the print. We can print the student's name as well. I mean, it's your choice, but you're going to print the student as well as the count, as well as student and the count and his mark of score count, and then you can move on to find his grade as well, and then you can use the grade count And then finally we have to increment this value of count to +1. This is pretty important that you increment the value of count +1. Usually they would have a shortened version of plus in addition, that's plus equals symbol, or we're just going to stick with the plus symbol. And then we're just going to close this loop until count is equal to 30. Now there are other ways of solving this, is that you can use correct loop. So in the loops that we have used here is the repeat loop. I mean, depending on your condition, you can use a while loop as well, but by just changing the loop and just change repeat. Instead of repeat, just write while count is less than 30, do. You can also use a for loop to print the students' marks, counts, and the grades as well, the grade count. Alright, so we're just storing the values, we're printing the values of score count as well as count itself, and the marks, score count, and the grades. So the suitable messages that are being used here, like where the question is asked, is being seen as student, seen as mark, seen as grade as well. So these are the suitable messages that we can put, and we output the score count, the grade count, as well as the count that is being kept there. Alright, and this is all looping until count is equal to 30, so that's some good 3 marks that you can score. Now describe how you could change the algorithm to allow teachers to use it with any size of the class. What we can do is we can add input function, input. So in order to do this, we can add an input function, right? An input statement, and this is better. An input facility, that would be a better word. Facility or access for allowing teachers to enter the respective size of class, as mentioned in the question, size of class. Then assign variables. We can assign variables to store these respective input class sizes. Respective input class sizes. That's for your second mark. And then you can make sure that the arrays have enough like looping structures, right? Arrays can accommodate largest possible class size, and like maybe 50, 100. So depending on the case, depending on the situation, possible class size. And you can just mention that depending on the situation, right? Depending on the situation as well. Alright, so these are some good 3 markers that you can score. You can add an input facility, you can add a variable, you can also use a class size variable as a terminating condition. You can make sure that the arrays are sufficiently large enough to accommodate the largest possible class size. These are some good points to keep in mind when dealing with that type of question. Now, the next question is all about flowcharts. Flowcharts are a bit of understanding is required. Is that the flowchart represents an algorithm. This is just in diagram form. The algorithm will terminate if -1 is entered. So it should terminate. This is the start function. This allows you to have input and output values. The parallelogram is for input and output values. The diamond is in the shape of conditional statements, and the rectangles are in form of process. Alright, so we're given the completed trace table for the input data. How many marks is this question? This is only for 4 marks, which is pretty less. Usually it will be coming up to 5, but 4 is enough. So the input data is given as well. So we're going to complete the trace table for the input data. This is coming under the flowcharts section. So we input the values, and the values are all given to us as 50. Just input it here in the value section: 50, 75, 99, 28, 82, 150, -1. So remember, we do not go on to write 672 as well as 80. This is not added because Remember, the flowchart clearly states that the algorithm will terminate if -1 is entered. So technically, we're just supposed to leave it till -1. So now let's check the values. So the value of 50, is value equal to -1? No, it's not. Is value greater than or equal to 50? And value is less than equal to 100? Yes, it is. 50 is greater than equal to 50, and the value is also less than equal to 100. And you should be doing, for this value, you do 100 minus the value. So in this case, if it's 100 minus 50, that would be 50. Let me just get my calculator just to check if the values here are stored correctly. So we know that 100 minus 50 is 50, so that value will be stored there. All you need to do, basically, for your answer, you don't need to show the calculation part, but in this case, I'm just showing you how I've solved this. So it's 50 as the value. Then your next job is to check, right? So your next job is to check if this value is stored in diff1, if it's less than 1, or if it's, and then what do you need to do sorry guys, you need to go to the next process, that is diff2. Value is minus 50, so it's subtracted by 50. So that is 50 minus 50, that is equal to 0. So you're going to have the value of 0. Is the value stored in diff1 less than 1, or the value stored in diff2 is less than 1? So the value stored in diff2 is less than 1. So that is yes. So that means we have to write except extreme. So that's the output for the specific required things, except extreme. So these are some example questions that we need to understand carefully to score those good 4 marks, because 1 mark is for each correct column. So let's move on to the next question. Then the next value, that is 75. So again, we check that if the value is value equal to -1. In this case, 75 is not equal to -1. Is the value greater than 50? 75 is greater than 50, and it's less than 100. So we're going to do 100 minus 75. So 100 minus 75, 100 minus 75, that should give us 25 as the answer stored in diff1. And then we do value minus 50, that should be stored in diff2. 75 minus 50, that should give us 25. And if diff1 is less than 1, in this case 25 is not less than 1, nor is diff2 less than 1. So we have to put the output as except normal. You can put maybe the colons if you like. I mean, it's your choice, but this is the output that's going to be coming there. But colons are important because they have specified here in the output as colons. So now next value is 99. So it's fairly easy actually. 99 is less than 50 and less than 100. So what we're going to do is 100 minus 99. So 100 minus 99 if you put in a calculator. But remember, calculators are not allowed in the exam. So maybe you have to just do calculation on your own. And for diff value 2, you have to just do value minus, based on the flowchart above, value minus 50 stored in diff2 column. So what you're going to do is you're going to put that in your calculator, and you should be getting 49. Is diff1 less than 1, or diff2 is less than 1? No, in this case it's not. So it's going to be except normal as well. Next value is 28. 28 is not greater than 50, but is the value greater than 50? No, it is not, but it is less than 100. So you're just going to do 100. So actually you're just going to, since the value is not greater than 50, then it's just going to be reject abnormal, because the value in this case 28 should be greater than 50, and see, an and condition has been used. So what we're going to put here is going to be called reject abnormal. Okay, that's because it's not following this criteria or rule above. Now let's check out the next value, that is 82. 82 is greater than 50, as well as it is less than equal to 100. So what you're going to do is you're going to do 100 minus 82, which should give you 18. 100 minus 82, which should give you 18. And for storing value in def 2, you just do 82 minus 50, and you just get 32. And 18 is not less than 1, nor is 32 less than 1, so you're just going to go with except normal as well. Except normal. Then your next question is 150. 150 is greater than equal to 50, but it is not less than 100, so it's again reject of normal. So it's not following that criteria. And our next set of values, and then it's given as -1, so the whole algorithm just will terminate if -1 is entered. So nothing is written, we just leave all of these column rows like that. Just leave it like that. This is your 4 marks in scoring these kind of values. So now we have to understand, describe the purpose of the algorithm is to output. Purpose of the algorithm is to output type of test data that's being used here by performing range checks. Okay, range checks. So this is meaning like it's just checking if the numbers are within the range 50 and 100 inclusive or not. So this is more like a range question to check if the values are in the extreme or in the normal range, or they just reject abnormal. So it could be either if it's extreme, if it's normal, or if it's abnormal. So this is just to output test data and by performing range check. Alright, so your next question, this is a fun question. I mean, databases are really fun questions. We have the library uses a database table called genre to keep a record of the number of books it has in each genre. State the reason ID could be used as primary key in the table genre. So ID, can it be used as a primary key? That is because remember this word unique, really, just remember the word unique. Whenever dealing with primary keys, remember guys, you always have to remember the word unique. It always comes, it uniquely identifies the word or row. So you could just say that the data in ID column, is unique. That's it. You just write that for 1 mark. It's unique to its data. Meaning you could just say the field is unique as well. It's not repeated in each row or record like the others as well. So just say that the data in ID column is unique. Okay. Then state the number of records in the table genre. So the number of records are these rows here. Don't include the field names. So we're just going to calculate it. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There are 18 rows excluding the field names. Okay, so there are 18 records, sorry. So because there are 18 rows, there are technically 18 records in the table genre. Alright. Now complete the query by example grid to display any genres with overdue books. Only display the ID, genre name, and overdue fields in order of the number of books overdue from largest to smallest. So they're giving us the fields that we need to use to display any genres with overdue books. So overdue books. So you have to show the field name ID. You have to show the field name genre name because they're clearly asking us to find that out. And the field name overdue as well, overdue field. So they're saying only display the ID, genre name, and overdue fields. Now in order of the number of books. Okay, in order of the number of books from the largest to smallest. So this is an overdue fields. So basically the overdue fields should be in descending order in order of the number of books overdue. So they're clearly saying that the overdue field should be from largest to smallest. This gives the hint. Now remember that since the table row is there, the table that is being used here, you can just take it from the question itself. It's a database called genre. So what you need to write is in capital everything, genre for each row, for each column with a field name on it. So you're just gonna write genres here as well and genre there. And then remember, if you're showing for sort data, the question here tells us that overdue is from largest to smallest, so we know that descending order is from largest to smallest. Okay, that's good. Then for the show row, we need to tick because we have to display any genres with overdue books, and we have to only display the ID, genre name, and overdue fields. So we put a tick there nicely. Maybe a tick that could be filling the box itself, that would be nice as well. You just put a tick there just to show the examiner that you're just displaying the field names, ID, genre name, and overdue. And your next question should be in the criteria section. They haven't mentioned any ID, genre name, but they asked us to display any genres with overdue books. So this overdue books, it just means that anything that is greater than 0 is what we have to display, because the question said display any genres with overdue books. So 0 should be a limiting. So if it's 1, that means it's an overdue book, right? So we have to write there it should be greater than 0. So in this question for 4 marks, you gain 1 mark for the correct fields that are present and correctly named, and you get 1 mark for the correct table name in the second row, and then all the columns, and you get 1 mark for sorting it in the third row, and you get 1 mark for the correct search criteria in the in the fifth row. So field is on first row, table second row, sort is in third row, show is in fourth, criteria is in the fifth row, and where the value greater than 0 must be put. So is there any other questions that are part of the 2021 series? Okay guys, there seems to be no questions after this question for databases. The paper has been relatively easy, but it shows you like what's coming for the May June 2021 series component 12. The paper will be easy, don't worry guys. Good luck to all those who are doing the computer science exam, and if you guys enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe. It will really help the channel a lot, and please do comment on what subjects that I'm going to solve past papers on. And I think that's it. Just share the videos. I mean, just enjoy it. I mean, and that's it. All right, bye guys.